Hello, everybody, and welcome to CasinoCompBuster. I'm up in the DC area visiting my kids at George Washington University and staying in a casino suite. I look forward to sharing the year in review with you. We have some good analysis and some insight. I hope you find it useful. Let's begin.
Let me start by saying that I can't begin to express the importance of tracking all of your play. Obviously, if you're doing this for profession or for vocation, or even if it's a significant hobby that requires you to take time away from other priorities or people that you care about, then you want to know whether or not it's worth your time. You want to know if you're winning or losing and how much. You might also want to know what your hourly return is for your time. You want to know which games or casinos are better than others. And ultimately, you want to track from year to year what your results are, and even from month to month, so you can see if the changes you make actually improve your results. It's hopeful improvement. Sometimes you make changes and it actually goes down instead of up, and that's important to know as well. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about what it is I track. So the most important information you see right here on your page. There's some other information that I track that's less important, but this is the stuff that's most important. If you have questions about additional stuff I track, then feel free to comment. In fact, why don't you comment when you get a chance below and let me know if you're tracking your plays at all or to what extent. Maybe you do it half the time or a quarter of the time or all the time. So if you look at this little excerpt from my spreadsheet, you'll see the dates in the games for starters. Now, I created what's called a validation list that has a list of approximately 70 games that I play, and I pick from the drop-down list. You can also see columns for which casino, how much I'm paying per spin, how much actual cash I put in the machine, how much free play I download into the machine, the total amount put into the machine, including cash and free play, and how much I cashed out. Now, when I cash out, that'll tell me how much I won or lost in the game, but that's different from how much cash flow I have. So let's take the first line as an example. You see, on December 10th, I was at the Venetian. I played Buffalo Link, and I was spending $2 a spin. I only put $5 of my own cash into the machine, and I downloaded $550. So total in the machine was $555. When I was done playing, I cashed out $504. So technically, I lost $51. $555 in, $504 out. However, since $550 was free play, the actual cash flow to my pocket was $499. And so I was cash flow positive $499, even though I lost $51 in the game. And then as you go down the list, you'll see again, cash in the next line, $484, plus $84 of free play, total of $568. And then you have $511 out. Lost 57, but plus 27 in cash flow. Next, $511 cash in, plus 250 downloaded a free play, so on and so forth. You get the idea. And then as you look, I tend to separate these by dates. I put a little border there to separate the dates. On the 11th, I was actually at the Wynn instead of the Venetian. And you can see there, $2 play on Lamp Mystery or Mystery Lamp, however you want to call it. Actual cash in $95, plus I downloaded 62 of free play, total of $157, cashed out $240, so I made $83 plus the 62 free play. So $145 went into my pocket. Then I played Buffalo Link for $4 a spin, put a $240 ticket into the machine. In fact, if you look at the cash out $240 and then the next play cash in $240, I just took that ticket and put it in a different machine and added $938 of free play for a total of $1,178 cash in. I cashed out $999, so I actually lost $179 on the game, but because most of that was free play, I actually cash flowed positive $759. So this gives you an idea of the information means and why I track it. You don't necessarily have to track all these things, but you definitely want to track which games you're playing, what the dates are. I think you should track which casino you're in. And the most important thing is how much cash you're putting in and how much cash you're taking out. And then that'll help you at least have cash flow information, positive or negative. Any questions that come up from this, again, just comment in the bottom, or you can ask which additional pieces of information I add to this if you want to be more thorough than this is, but I think this is pretty thorough. So from the line items that I track or the records that I keep, I create a bunch of pivot tables using spreadsheets for tracking purposes. This is one of many different charts that it feeds. Now, this one happens to break my slot activities down by casinos. Let me review the columns for you. Obviously, the first column is casino, and this represents an excerpt. It's not all the casinos I played in. And as you can see, by far and away, the most that I play is Cherokee. That's my home casino. Next is games played. So if you see, for example, Aria, I was there for just one day, and therefore I only played 7 games. That just means 7 times I put money in a machine and cashed it out. It could be the same exact game, but right next to each other, 2 different machines. That's 2 games. Every time I put cash in and then cash it out, that counts as a game. And so as you look down, you'll see 867 games played at Cherokee. That might have been a total of 70 or 80 days for the year. Now, actual cash in, this is fed again from the records chart, the line items that I just showed you previously. Regarding actual cash in, look at Two Kings Casino. It says 37,000. That doesn't mean that I took 37,000 out of my pocket. Remember on the previous screen, I showed you here, $240 was cashed out of one machine, and I immediately turned and put that $240 into another machine. So that $240 gets added, even though I didn't take any money out of my pocket. I just moved the ticket from one machine to another. That $240 gets added as cash in. And so the actual cash in is the sum of all the tickets I put in, even if it was the same ticket going in and out of different machines. Total free play that they gave me, as you can see, there are a number of casinos that I went to for maybe the first time ever or first time recently, so they didn't have any free play for me. And the ones that I frequent the most are the ones that give me the most free play. Next up, total amount at risk. The total amount at risk is your cash in plus your free play. Now, really, I use the word at risk in quotes because that's not all your money that was at risk. Some of it was the casino's money that they gave you in free play. Net cash out $35,000. Since I cashed in $37,791 and cashed out $35,261 at Two Kings, in the games themselves, I lost $2,530. But $505 of that was their money, the casino free play that they gave me. So my cash flow for that casino overall was negative $2,000. And you can see Ameristar, negative $3, Aria, plus $582, Bristol Hard Rock, plus $6,000, Caesars Las Vegas, minus $15,000, Cherokee, plus $23,000, so on and so forth. This allows me also sometimes to take a look at casinos or even regions that I go to see if it is worth taking a trip. I went to Harrah's in Kansas City, and I went to St. Louis, and I went to a few other stops along the way to the Midwest. I could take that trip and just add up those specific casinos and figure out whether or not it was a worthwhile trip. So that way I know if I want to take that trip again. In this case, being a road trip. Now let's move on to the next. So the next chart here is also year-end stats, but it's broken down by game. It's going to be the same information. Games played is the number of times that I put money and cashed out of that specific game across all the casinos. Actual cash in, we discussed before. Total free play, total at risk being both. Combined cash in from my pocket and free play. Net cash out. And then profit and loss for the game across all casinos for the year. And then what was my cash flow when you include the free play. The cash flow is not nearly as important in this particular one because the fact that I put in a lot of free play in that game was by choice. I could have put that free play into Blossom. If you look on the line below, the first one is Buffalo Ascension. The second one is a game we call Blossom. I could have put the 15,000 in there and it would have looked like I won a lot. So I really am much less concerned with cash flow and much more concerned on this chart with profit and loss. The other chart by casino, cash flow is important because that helps me figure out which casinos are giving me more free play than others. This one is completely arbitrary based on what I put in. So you can see now, Buffalo Ascension was definitely on this chart. This is only a partial list, my best game. 511 times I played the game, put 383,000, or let's call 384,000 worth of tickets and cash into the game. Total free play, total at risk, 399, net cash out, 426. So I had $26,000 of profit on Buffalo Ascension. Now, Buffalo Link was my most popular game. It's the game I played the most. And so looking at this chart at the end of the year, I can see that I put cash in about 596,000 plus free play 613,000 at risk, but cashed out only 566. So I lost 47,000 in Buffalo Link last year. So what does that tell me? That tells me that I need to perhaps consider a different game, play more Ascension and play less Buffalo Link, even though Buffalo Link is probably my favorite. You can look down the list here: Ascension, Blossom, Buffalo Link, Captain Riches, Cash Falls, all the games here. Well, not all of them, but a list of several games here and what the profit and loss was. Obviously, anything that I played very little of, the numbers are going to be skewed. There's no way to know. But once you start getting up around 100, 200, even more times played, it tends to be a fairly reliable piece of information. So let's continue to move on to the next chart. This next chart may be the most important out of all of them for me. This is breaking down the year by quarter. Look at the first column, 2024, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and grand totals. These are the same columns from the other most recent charts that I showed you: games played, cash in, total free play, total at risk, net cash out, games, profit and loss, and cash flow. You'll notice in column 2, which is games played, that during the fall going into the winter, I tend to spend more time in the casinos. In the spring, I like to travel, and as well during the summer and into the early fall. So the volume, as you look at games played, went down in quarters 2 and 3. Obviously, the cash in did as well. Now, I can see here that even though quarter 1 and quarter 4 had similar games played, I cashed in a lot more in quarter 4. That means that the average amount that I am gambling increased per play during that time. I put a lot more at risk, and it didn't actually pan out. The results weren't necessarily there. Throughout the year, I make modifications, and sometimes I know when those modifications are made, and then I can track that as well. But the next chart might be a little more useful for that. So as you look at total games played for the year, 1,950 times I put money in a machine and cashed out. My actual cash in was 1,765,000. Now I need to reiterate, that doesn't mean I had 1.7 million or anything close to it. It just means that if I put a ticket in for 500 and cashed it out for 400, and then put that 400 into another machine and cashed it out for 500, I made no money, but I cashed in 500 plus 400, which is 900. That counts as cash in. If I keep putting that ticket in over and over and over again, then it looks like I cashed in a lot more. The free play, they usually give me around 3% of what I cash in is what it comes out to. If you notice, 14,000 on 451, a little more than 10,000 on 317,000, a little more than 3%. 9,600 on 333,000, a little less than 3%. But one thing you'll notice is at the fourth quarter, 24,000 approximately on 660, it's starting to approach 4%. Really important to know that for me, because I made changes from the third going into the fourth quarter. I started playing higher limits and higher denominations with lower bets. So for example, a $10 bet on some machines, you can play a penny times 1,000 units, or 2 pennies times 500 units, or 5 pennies times 200 units, or 10 pennies being their top denomination times 100 units. Not only will the 10 times 100 get you more comps in the long run, but a lot of these machines are programmed to pay out better at the highest denominations. And so I ended up playing at the higher denominations, more of those higher denominations as the year went on. And the result for me was more free play and also a lot of times better results. So total cash in for the year was 1.76 million. Total free play was 58,000, 24,000 of which was in the fourth quarter. Total amount at risk, if you add them both together, was 1.82 million. and I cashed out 1.82 million. So my profit and loss for the year in games was $1,345. What does that tell me? That tells me that I basically broke even on slots for the year. I am pretty selective on my slots. You can certainly put some messages in the comments if you want to find out more about that. But I try to play some of the higher denominations, try to find machines that pay out better, or machines that have higher potential for jackpots. And the fact that I broke even for the year, for me, is a very positive thing. The machines are designed, obviously, to win in the long term. Anything in the casino that doesn't win consistently in the long term, they take out of the casino, whether it's a specific slot machine or whether it's a specific table game or what have you. So the fact that I broke even for the year, I made $1,000 profit, is significant. And it might be better than what I can sustain. So for my 2025 goal, I would love to improve upon that, but that might not be a realistic goal because the house is going to win in the long term in the games themselves. But I'm looking to get my cash flow up by having more free play and continuing to increase the amount of free play based on the volume that I put in. And then again, if I could just about break even and maybe get 100,000 of free play, for example, then that turns out to be, as far as cash flow goes, a bigger number. Now, last year, this was my primary activity for the year. I do play some poker on the side, and I did make profits playing poker, so I was happy about that. But otherwise, I don't have any form of employment or anything that I'm doing. So for me, I'm in a fortunate situation where I have some passive income from previous business dealings, and I can take a little bit of money that's above and beyond what my bills are each month, and I can put that towards gambling. And as I win, like I did last year, almost 60,000, I can increase my bankroll. I can't reiterate enough, please do not gamble beyond what you can afford to lose. Everything that you put from your pocket into the machine is at risk, and you could lose it all. So if you can't afford to lose it, please don't play it. In my case, I have a bankroll that, for me, fortunately, grows a little bit by little over time. That bankroll feeds both my poker tournaments and my slot machines, although I do very few poker tournaments compared to slots. Last year, I spent 154 nights in casinos. I did not pay for a room. So this is part of what we're talking about here. And there's another chart that we're going to look at the end. Free rooms, free food, and free play. Those are the three main items that you're looking for. If you're a poker player, which I know a lot of my friends are, in the beginning, I was just doing this a little bit to get me free rooms for the poker tournaments. Then I realized that I was actually making money doing this. And so I started doing more of it. And to be honest with you, I like being able to come and go as I please. Right now, I'm in a casino for 4 nights. And yesterday, I didn't even go into the casino at all, not even for a second. I like being able to do that. I like being able to stay in, watch movies, or do other things like create these videos when I want to do that and having that flexibility. Whereas poker, for example, when I'm playing poker, when you're in a tournament, you're kind of stuck in the tournament until you bust. And if you don't want to play in it and you bust intentionally, you're just lighting money on fire. Here, I could start and stop anytime I want, sometimes multiple times a day. And I don't want to pay for rooms or food. A lot of my trips give me the opportunity to do both because I'll go to a place where they have poker tournaments and obviously slot machines. I generally don't go to places where they have poker tournaments if there's no slot machines, because then I can't get my free rooms. I can't earn future free rooms and free food. And also I can't supplement my income with the slot machines. So this is a pretty good idea here for the year, what it looked like. I'm trying to improve on it each year. And that way, as time goes on, I can make this a legitimate full-time source of income. Let's move on to the next. This next chart, again, feeds from the same information, and it breaks it down by month instead of by year. This is not a necessity, but I like doing this because I actually take notes on the side of when I make certain changes. As an example, in October of last year, I went on a road trip and I was playing some pretty high denomination games that had a lot of volatility. And that's one of those being Buffalo Link. And I was playing it for high limits and lost a lot of money doing it, going from September to October. And so I made some changes. I cut back a little bit on Buffalo Link and started playing some other games that were maybe a little less volatile so that I can have fewer
big losses. I'll still have losses on some of those games, but I'll take a lot more pop shots now, as you've seen in some of my videos. And so my risk is not as big. I'm not putting $10,000 into one machine on one play anymore. You know, if it might be a $25 spin that could have cost me 10,000, but I might only put in 1,000 and see how it goes. And if I don't make any progress during that first 1,000, maybe walk away and go play a different machine. And so these things helped. As you look at the last 2 months of the year, my cash flow was much better. My games profit and loss was much better. It was really bad in September and October. And I realized that I needed to make a change. And so this stuff helps me to track sometimes. When I break it down by month, it's a little bit better because that change was made at the end of October. And that's part of quarter three. And the bad habits started actually in August. So August, September, and then October, I had some bad habits. And I had to recognize those habits and break out of them and make some changes. And that really did salvage my year. So this just gives you an idea. All the same information we just looked at. The grand totals are exactly the same from the previous. This is just broken down by month.
Okay, this last chart that we're going to look at actually breaks down my comps by type. And this is important for me to know and to go over with you because the value you get is not always the stated value. And sometimes we miss value that we don't even think about. Now, since I also play poker in addition to slots, poker tournaments, it's important for me to account for rooms and meals because before I was playing slots, I still played poker part-time, but I had to pay for my own rooms and meals. Now I don't. And so let's look at this chart here, start at the top. The free play we already discussed, I received about $58,000 in free play for the year. So we keep that separate. Then rooms. I spent 154 nights in casino resorts last year without paying for a room. Some of those rooms go for as much as $2,500 a night. Multiple times I've had penthouse suites that they sell for over $2,000 a night if they're not giving it away for free. That's amazing, but I don't count that as $2,000 of value to me. Reason being is that if I was going to pay for a hotel, I would generally tend to pay closer to $200. Now, there is some value, which is hard to quantify, of having a really nice room that you could never get for $200. But I'm not sure how to quantify that. My average room that I paid for in the past was probably closer to $150. So I added a little bit for the nicer rooms to bring it up to $200. The value of those rooms for the year, about $30,000. Meals. I did not track every meal I ate. That would be, for me, a little bit over the top and extraneous. But I know I eat between 2 and 3 meals a day. So I averaged it out and it comes to about 400 meals during those 154 days in the casino. Some of those meals were as much as 400 or 500 per person that they comped. That's great. Amazing meals. I can't even begin to tell you what a delight and a joy it was to eat those meals. However, I would never pay that kind of money out of my own pocket. $50 is probably more consistent with what I would have to pay at a casino if I was paying out of pocket. I would eat some meals, maybe that around $100, but I'd also eat some meals that were closer to $20. So we average $50 a piece on the 400 meals, and that comes to about $20,000. I took 4 trips last year. I get a lot more than 4. I just don't have time to take them or necessarily a desire. I get a handful of free cruises every year. I get a handful of trips out of the country with airfare and other things paid for. I took 4 of those trips last year. I put the average value of those trips around $3,000, even though when you take into account, I don't have to pay for food and lodging and stuff like that. So let's put the value of $12,000 because I would have gone on vacations, and I did go on vacations that I paid for if these trips were not around. And then finally, spa. I could go to the spa probably every week for free, maybe even twice a week. I just don't do it that often. I figured I did it about 9 times for the year. And the average value is probably about $200. So we add $1,800. So when you add all that comp value together, it's about $122,000 worth of comp value that I was able to extract from the systems by playing high volume slot machines. I used to play table games a lot. And if you do that, you can also extract a bunch of value, but it might be a little harder. Table games generally have better odds for the player than the slot machines. Slot machines have a lower return to player or a higher house take than the table games do. And so since the slot machines generally make more money for the house, they also give better comps to the players. That's what I found out. So I used to play blackjack and baccarat, and I got almost no comps. And then I started playing craps a lot. I got some decent comps. I started playing roulette. I got better comps. And then when I switched to slots, I got even better comps. And so whatever your game is, I would suggest you track all your sessions and that you track all of the comp value that you're obtaining and your cash flow to figure out whether or not it's worthwhile for your time. We all take risks at doing this. We all risk our time and our money when we come to the casino, and we're doing it for fun. But at the same time, we want to be able to justify the expense. Now, if there's a profit, like there is in my case, then it becomes not just free entertainment, but entertainment that I'm being paid for. And that's the goal. If I can help you guys become better at getting more comps for the time and money that you risk, then I'll consider this channel to be a success. So that just about wraps it up here. I would love for you to put comments, think of any good questions. I may do a follow-up video to answer the questions that you guys ask, but go into the comments below and put down any questions you have or comments or feedback. And I hope that you all get a chance to follow in my footsteps or even surpass what I'm doing and teach me some things so we can all get better value for the time and the money that we're putting at risk. All right, guys, take care and have a great 2025.